Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to load VST instrument on Reaper. So essentially, if you want to replace your keyboard or piano sound with something better, you can use a VST instrument. So in my case here, I'm using the SampleTank 4 Max from IK Multimedia, which has a huge discount now. It's about 49 euro plus an additional of about 10% or 15% if you subscribe to their newsletter. So they have a very interesting piano sound in this library, which is taken from the Yamaha C7 Grand. You can go over to the demo to listen to some of the samples, but it seems like they don't really promote this much. I bought this library just because of that C7 Grand, in fact. And plus, of course, we have many additional instruments to choose from, including some very good strings, samples, bass, guitar, and everything you can name. Yeah, so this library is very complete, and at 50 euros, I would say that is really worth it. I have the non-max version, so let's go back to Reaper. So first thing that you're gonna set up is you go to the options and preferences and scroll down to the VST section under plugins and just make sure that your VST folder is loaded in there. So here you can choose the folder, and typically my VST plugins is located in here, program files, VST plugins. It can be in many locations. So make sure you find the DLL needed for the VST. So I'm using Windows, and I suppose Mac will work the same way because there's also Reaper for Mac. And the great thing about Reaper is that you can evaluate it forever for free. There's a pop-up every time you open Reaper. Okay, after you edit the path list, you add your VST path, you can click rescan, and then later on it will appear in the VST. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you're going to insert new track here, and then we are going to load all the VST instruments here. So we can click here. So this is like the VST plugins that you're gonna load in this track. If you have some additional effects, you can put it before the SampleTank in my case, or after the SampleTank. Depends on when you want to either make it as an input or as an output. So let's load up. For example, I'm going to put the SampleTank in the second VST plugin here. SampleTank. Here I have the VST. Let's choose either the VST or VST3i. Okay, there you go. This is a SampleTank, and you just load any instruments here. Let's say piano here, and then here this is a big library. So this is a C7 Grand consisting of 11 gigabytes samples. And then the great thing about this C7 is that you don't need to tune it that much. Like the basic settings from there is already working very great out of the box. So if you want, of course, you can adjust the low, medium, high, EQ, and then the noises. So in this case, it affects the pedal noise as well, which I don't really like. Typically, I'll just turn it off. And then there's other things like the lid positioning and the brightness of the sound and so on. So let's not go too deep on that. So the SampleTank is already loaded in here. And then if you want to do something like, in my case, I typically need the velocity curve adjustment. So you can add an additional plugin here. So you can tune like the minimum velocity that you want. So let's say, for example, you don't really like the lower velocity samples of the piano. You can put it at a minimum 30 in my case. Or you don't really like the fortissimo of the piano, you can also turn it down. And then the positioning of these VST plugins, right? So you need to arrange it in such a way that the MIDI velocity plugin will be before the SampleTank, because it acts as the modifier for the MIDI velocity. It will be passed to the SampleTank. Yep, so you can experiment with that. An additional thing to mention, if you have an EQ, you might want to put it after the SampleTank. So EQ, for example, I never use any of this, but I suppose it will work. For piano, typically I just reduce the bass a little bit and so on. And if you have like reverb plugin, you can put it after the SampleTank as well. Okay, Let's go back to this one. So another thing that you need to do is you need to engage recording. So there's a very interesting button here. You need to arm this track for recording, which means that this track is enabled for recording. It doesn't mean that it will be recorded straight away, but when you play the instrument, the sound coming from this track will be sent to the output. Okay, which this is a bit tricky because previously I do not know what is this and there's no sound coming out from my VST plugin. So turns out I just missed this one. And then the next thing is you're going to check your audio devices under options preferences. So first, before you set the audio settings, you need to plug in your Yamaha digital piano, in my case, or whatever keyboard you have, through the USB host connection to your laptop. And depending on whether your keyboard has the built-in audio engine, if the keyboard does not have the built-in audio engine, then only the MIDI input and output will be recognized. But if your keyboard has the built-in audio engine, then both the audio engine and the MIDI in and out will be recognized as well. Okay, so I have plugged in my Yamaha P125 digital piano. So you can go to the audio and then device. So certain types of keyboard will have the audio engine, which means you can redirect the piano sound back to the piano speakers. So for example here, what I'm using in my church is Roland Juno DS, which also have a built-in audio engine, so you can send back the audio back to the Roland itself. And then for Yamaha P125, this is a very unique instrument where the price is actually cheap, but it has the built-in audio engine. So essentially you don't need to route your laptop to a 3.5mm jack and send it to a speaker, but rather you can send back the audio from the VST instrument back to the Yamaha speakers, and then from there even you can send the output to the big speaker to the audio out from Yamaha. So you have chosen the audio engine. So if you do not have this capability, which is the built-in audio engine, you might want to install ASIO for all. Okay, that enables a low latency audio output from your laptop, and then from there, from your laptop, you can send out the output to the 3.5mm jack, and then from there to the speakers. So let me show you this one, ASIO for all. So again, if you don't have the audio engine on your keyboard, you can install this. Okay, so after you install this, under the ASIO, you have the ASIO for all version 2. But in my case, I'll put it in Yamaha. And then on the MIDI inputs, another thing to mention is, so you have all the MIDI devices here. So I don't have the Juno DS with me right now, but I have the Yamaha's MIDI input right now. You go to right-click Configure Device, and then Enable Input from this device. Make sure these two are ticked. Okay, so you have those enabled. And before that, maybe let's try to record all this audio so we can see the result later on. Yeah, just press this record button. Well, that sounds beautiful. So yeah, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.